Never really listened to what the president said because in general I believed that the general was politically dead. But he always seemed to know when the muscles were about to be flexed. Because I remember him saying something, mumbling something about a military-industrial complex.
As I have walked among the desperate, rejected, and angry young men, I have told them that Molotov cocktails and rifles would not solve their problems. I have tried to offer them my deepest compassion while maintaining my conviction that social change comes most meaningfully through nonviolent action. But they ask, and rightly so, what about Vietnam? They ask if our own nation wasn't using massive doses of violence to solve its problem, to bring about the changes it wanted. Their questions hit home, and I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government. For the sake of those boys, for the sake of this government, for the sake of the hundreds of thousands trembling under our violence, I cannot be silent.
Each one reach one, each one time.
I cannot be silent.
Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. Everyone must play a part. Everyone's got to go to work. Work for peace. Spirit say work.
I cannot be silent.
Empowering the body, mind, and spirit. This is We Cannot Be Silent with Phil Rustino and Larry Pinckney.
And here we go, folks, with hour 5 of the United We Win weekend for May of 2012. And Siobhan is here with Dr. Laura Tria. Take it, ladies. You have the floor, the mic, and the spotlight.
Thank you, Dave. I just want to give some gratitude to Dave because it takes a lot of personal time and energy to even put such a marathon together like United We Win and be on top of it all day long. So thank you, Dave. So, yes, my guest today is actually Reverend Laura Tria, just to make that little distinction there. Welcome, everybody, to United We Win's May Marathon. Don't buy, don't comply, ask why. And I know we keep hearing that, but there's a really good purpose for that. We've been trained like robots. You know, we've been trained to just respond to all sorts of stimuli very quickly and just go for it without questioning much of anything. But that's changing. That's changing all over the world. It's certainly changing in my life. And a lot of people I know are asking questions. They're asking why things are the way they are. And when we say don't buy, that could be something as simple as just what Karen said a little while ago. Don't buy into don't buy into the propaganda that is fed to us on so many levels, through the media, through advertisements, through our public education system. So we do need to understand what we're dealing with. How can we possibly be effective in creating our lives, in creating the things that we want to see in the world if we don't understand what it is that we're dealing with or how we've been being in the first place. So, Reverend Tria, are you with us?
I am so with you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And, you know, I'm listening to what you said, Siobhan, and already it's incorporated into so much of who I am and who I've been being for people and for myself for years now. And when I'm with people, I usually start off in something very minute in their life, something that seems to mean nothing to them until I point it out. And one of those things is I tell people that we are so conditioned that I can make them do something without even asking their permission. And I put my hand out, and they stretch their hand out to shake it. And I asked them why they're doing that, and they said, because you put your hand out. And it sounds so simple, and it doesn't affect their life at all, but what I'm showing them and what they realize immediately is that they're used to gestures, and even a gesture puts us in a position of something without thought. And so you're right, we are just little robots since day one in our lives. We come out free, and we come out looking at everything and feeling inspired by the world, and we want to touch, and we want to taste, and we want to explore, and we are taught from day one how to hold back on all that stuff. Yeah. And so that's how I usually end up introducing my clients, because as a life coach, I have to let them know that they are running their lives. And in running your life, you first have to know that you're not running your life.
That's right. You have to see the ways that we're not running our life, where we're not even thinking about giving permission, just a reaction. Right. And I've noticed that for my life, and certainly you know this, well, just for the listeners too, I have a wonderful relationship with Reverend Laura Tria. She's been one of my teachers. She is the founder of the New Light Sanctuary, which is an interfaith sort of sanctuary where all sorts of interesting classes and worship services, energy healing, life coaching goes on. And I trained with her for about 1.5 years. And maybe the listeners will get this, but right, because I'm in my transition of learning what to call myself, right? I've been asserting my sovereignty, for lack of a better word, and dealing with that whole situation and making affidavits and dealing with the courts. And so I'm like, do I want to call myself a minister? Because I don't know what attachments come with that. So, but I did train to be a minister, so I have very much relation to Laura Tria, and it's really a great pleasure for me to bring her to this community, because yes, she's a minister, but she happens to be quite awake. She knows about the chemtrails. She knows about Agenda 21 and a lot of the things that are going on. And I mean, knowing me, she can't not know those things because I talk about them a lot. So I just want to let everybody know she's a real gift and a real gem. And so I'm really looking forward to getting into some meats and potatoes here for today's show. So I just want to start by updating everybody. I went to a meeting last week at the Hilton Hotel here in Melville, Long Island. It was a meeting called Water Worries, and it was legislators and councilmen and councilwomen and scientists from nearby universities telling the public in panels. A few of them would go up there and speak at a time. They were telling us that all of the nitrogen pollution we have on Long Island is mostly due to human settlements. All right, they use the word human settlements. They talked about sustainability a lot. Not once did I hear that some of this nitrogen from human settlement waste is coming from corporations or business or government or anything like that. It was very geared towards that humans are a problem.
Siobhan, let me interrupt for a minute. Reverend Laura, are you outside?
No, that's Siobhan who's outside.
Oh, okay. Siobhan, you're making wind noise.
Oh, okay. Is that better? Is that better?
Yeah, that's better, yes.
Okay. All right, so long story short, this conference about water worries really pointed to human beings as being the problem for, our pollution, so to speak. And I heard a lot of catchphrases from Agenda 21, such as sustainability, such as public-private partnerships, such as this was one of their solutions for the problem, public-private partnerships. And if anybody knows anything about that, that's where the government takes public, let's say public highways or public parks, and sells them to foreign corporations, foreign interests. And then the foreign corporation is now controlling that which used to be public. So these are the kinds of things our government is doing. So that meeting, Water Worries, had Agenda 21 written all over it. And so, folks, just be aware in your towns, in your counties, when your local people start talking about human settlements and sustainability and being stewards of the earth and how humans are a problem, just know that they may be talking about Agenda 21, and it's likely they are. This comes out of the United Nations. It's basically to pack us out into like urban developments, and really it's more of a land grab. They want to grab the resources, make them inaccessible to regular folks like ourselves. So something to be aware of. And Laura, you know about chemtrails, right? We talk about geoengineering, so we have that going on. Then we have, and I just want to point out a few things to folks, and then I want to get into what you think about all this, and get into some of the emotions that it may bring up, like fear or anxiety, things like that. So those are a few of the things we got going on. We have Agenda 21. We have the United Nations looking to come into American land and take it over. In a nutshell, we have geoengineering, where the sun is getting blocked out almost daily, and streaks in the sky, dropping aluminum. We're finding strontium and barium. Then we have an economic system that is really more like a form of slavery, because it's all debt-based money. And then we have Monsanto, companies like Monsanto, who basically are the government in a way, because their executives work for Monsanto, then they go and work for the EPA or the FDA after a while. So we have so many things coming to the surface, being exposed, which are not comfortable to deal with. They're not comfortable to face and confront, because it's kind of scary, right? You're going on with your life, kind of sleepwalking, everything's great, and then you start to find things out like this. So what's your take on some of this, Laura?
My take is that it does not have to be as scary and as big as if to say that it's bigger than us. If we take on the stand that it's bigger than us, then we assist in creating it as something bigger than us that's uncontrollable. So this kind of conversation has been going on for millennia, because with all governments, there's always a sense of control. There's always a sense of somebody's being moved around without their will, being asked without their permission. It's been that way since the beginning of the patriarchy, or the beginning of trying to control the masses. Since we've grouped into communities, somebody wanted to take over. And for the people who walk around feeling that it is hopeless, that their voice makes no difference, for those people there is a sense of hopelessness. That's what their life becomes, and that allows the bigness to become bigger. When you realize that your voice does matter, when you realize that you are equally as powerful as whatever the grandeur is that is doing what they're doing, you are equally as powerful as the people spraying the chemtrails and as the government's taking care of the finances. You are equally as powerful as that. When you get that, your life becomes a lot less stressful. You feel a lot less beat up. You start to have more light about you because you're not so afraid. And when you can start being that way regularly, your vibration becomes higher. And when the people around you can stop being so beat up about it regularly, then their vibration becomes higher. And in the long run, that spreads, and that can spread like wildfire, just like fear can spread like wildfire. And as it spreads, we become a stronger being, and they become a lesser being. And for the simplicity of that, it's not easy, but it is simple. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do, and I get what you mean. It's, some people might say, well, it's easier said than done, and that is true in a way. It is something that I would think requires a little bit of practice and self-discipline. Well, I know it does, because that's how I live my life, and it requires maintenance.
Yes, it requires maintenance.
Yes.
So I'd like to say this. Your public, the people who are listening to this station, let me start off by saying just the fact that you have this, just the fact that you're tuned in, whether it is via recording or listening to this live, just the fact that you, and I'm speaking to the audience, I don't know you can be mowing your lawns with earphones on, or you can be in front of your computer, or you can be doing what you're doing, but you're the person I'm speaking to. You are already on the path to showing your power. You're getting educated in what's going on. Knowing what's going on, really knowing what's going on, is the first step to becoming powerful about it. Siobhan said that it's easier said than done, and it absolutely is. However, once you get it, once you train your cells, your biological makeup, once you train your thoughts that you are powerful, once you undo the habit since birth that somebody else has authority, once you undo that way of being, it becomes simple. In fact, it becomes that when someone tells you they have control over you, that's what sounds abnormal. That's what doesn't resonate. Because you just become more of, this is my life and I take a stand for it.
Well, that's why I want, absolutely, that's why I wanted to have you on, because working with you and, all of the other things that we've all done, our circle kind of tends to actively exercise our spirituality. And this process of owning more authority, being more aware of my own authority in my life, this even stems out into our situation with the global situation, everything I was talking about. Now, I'm used to doing this with other things in my life, but this one does seem to be a little bigger than the rest. And I know, in a way, we make that up in our own heads, right? Like that anything is bigger than anything, really, at the levels of, if we want to get quantum physical about it, at the level of energy, there's different energies and some more powerful than others, but really it all comes from the same source. It's just one energy field, and we can do what we want with it, right?
Right.
So I want to somehow drop into a conversation where we can help or assist listeners in how or what small ways in their life, little things they can do, or that seem little but really actually have a big impact at the levels of energy and manifestation, but things that they can do to try to make some peace with what's happening, to move through the fear of what's happening. I mean, I'll give an example. I spoke to Laura and just so everybody knows, this is a Humanity Transcending show. My guest is Reverend Laura Tria. You can visit me at www.humanitytranscending.com and Reverend Laura Tria at www.lauratria.com. But anyway, I want to take it into somewhere where we can assist listeners in coming to terms with what's happening in such a way where we come into our own power and into our own authority, and not where we fall asleep at the wheel with this stuff, but because I feel that we can't be effective. We can't be necessarily effective if we're running off of fear or running off of insecurity.
Let me interrupt for a second. If we run off of fear, let me tell you what happens if we run off of fear so that we can define that, so it can be clear what running off of fear as opposed to running off of intellect or knowledge. There's a difference. And if we're going to run off of fear, see, we're all on this planet, all us earthlings are, and this is no insult to anyone, but I'm going to go hoping that you can follow me. I'm sure Siobhan will stop me if I need to be stopped. All us earthlings are playing the earth game. And so we wake up every day and we choose, either consciously or unconsciously, what we want to do with our lives. And we interact with other human beings during the day who are playing their game. So I'm going to give an example here on whose game are we getting into. They're games, if you will. If you get if you buy into the fear of this big game that's going on, then you are assisting that game in becoming greater and more powerful, because you're giving into that game. You're going to play a game from the moment you wake up. You have to choose what game you're going to be in. I'm going to use an example of something that happened just today about how I chose to be in a different game than what was presented to me. So I officiated a wedding today. It was very nice. We were outside. The sky was blue. The couple was happy. The people were all feeling love, and we did our wedding. And after the wedding, I looked at the sky and I said, a nice clear day. It's blue. It's sunny here in New York. We could really use that. It felt good on my skin. I got to my car, and there was a crack in the windshield, a nice 7-inch crack. And just a few weeks ago, I lowered my insurance to not have the window covered. And so, of course, there's crack in it. And I had choices in that moment. All of the emotions start speaking to me. All of my ego parts and all of my personas start speaking to me. Ooh, did somebody break my window? Ooh, did something fall out of the sky? "Ooh, I don't have the money to fix this window now." All those little voices were going off. Then there was the other voices. "Actually, I do have the money now. Actually, even fixing this window would be less expensive than keeping the insurance for the window on it all year long. So I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do." In the long run, I dismissed all those voices. I came home and I called the window guy, and I've already have an appointment for him to come and look at the window, and supposedly my window might be under warranty. There might not be any payment at all, whatever. We're trying to figure that out. But my point to you is, either way it has to be handled. I choose to handle it with no emotion whatsoever. I choose to call the guy, have the money in the bank. He'll come and take a look at it. Either I'll pay him or I won't pay him. No attachment. It just has to be done. It's that simple. So when I look in the sky and I see chemtrails, I can call Siobhan or someone, express it, not be attached to it, make sure the conversation keeps going, and in that, build a power behind it without being attached to the fear of it all. It's already in the sky. I'm looking at them right now. The sky is no longer as blue as it was just a little while ago. And I'm letting it settle in. There it is. That's what they're doing. I'm on the phone with you, having this fabulous conversation and exercising the knowledge I have. And Dave is wise enough to and kind enough to be putting this out into the world to anybody who wants to hear it. So I'm still playing my game, and I'm playing my game powerfully. I'm not attached to who wins because I'm playing my game powerfully. Does that help anyone, or Siobhan, does any of that sound like a way to be other than afraid?
Yeah, well, and I think it sounds very appealing to a lot of people. Although I wonder how it sits with folks, because again, there is a maintenance part to this. It's not like overnight we just become not fearful. I think there are some elements that are required, one of which is divulging the fear, expressing the fear. I think a lot of folks get angry, and that's fine because I get it, because I've been in that anger place, and it doesn't really come up so much anymore. It's more of like a sadness, if anything, or just a shock. But it really brings on some heavy emotions. So I get not being attached to emotions. In a way, I wonder how many other people get that, listeners. And if you're not getting it, guys, it's totally fine. Just let it kind of sink in, and just see if you can hear something valuable in not being attached to the fear, not being attached to the outcome. We know what we want. A lot of us on United We Win, we know what we want. It's just freedom in a nutshell, in every which way possible. But I just want to let everybody know there is a little bit of maintenance required. And when I mean maintenance, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just self-discipline as far as sort of directing our thinking. Like I mean everybody right now. When I say I'm talking to every listener. Your energy is so precious, and your time is so precious. And so when you're directing your thoughts, or you're just thinking for that matter, just be aware of what it is you're thinking. Be aware of where you're directing your precious energy, because it matters. Let me
see if I can go down this road, if you will.
May I break in for a moment?
Of course.
You have brought up a very interesting point that I find. I have been giving this advice to people for years when they say, I have this or I have that. I've been telling them this. You want to play in the game? Don't play by their rules. Make your own up. I don't know how to do that. I said, it's real easy. Just tell them, no, they do not have permission to violate your sanctity. You're your own person. Don't play it. Make them up as you go. And you know what? A lot of people say thank you. And with that note, I'll go back and just simply listen. Reverend Laura, I admire both of you ladies. I really do.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. And Dave, you hit it right on the head. And I'm glad that you said what you said, because one voice means nothing. One voice can't possibly be a light bulb for everybody. I love when everyone gets involved in the conversation, because you don't know who's going to say the words that end up to be the moment where somebody says, oh, my God, I got it. Yep. So I'm thrilled that you jumped in, and I'm going to take exactly what we just said to another level. I chose to be an interfaith minister because that's the only title that is somewhat acceptable to the world as a servant of spirituality. So I'm going to define myself to you. And the reason I'm going to do that is because when I define what it is, who I am, and how I assist people, in this definition, a lot of times people say, you know what, I might find some freedom there and some self-empowerment there. So my motivation for being a servant of humanity in the name of their spirituality, the thing that motivates me to wake up every morning and connect with humanity is I am so sick and tired of hearing that it's humanity's fault, that humanity is a mistake, that somehow we're not perfect, that we were born with some kind of, damaged original sin thing stamped on us. I see humanity as amazingly perfect. I am excited over my iPhone. People are excited over their computers. When I think of something that created us, can you imagine how fabulous and excited that essence must be? Because look at us. We are an amazing creation. We create. We can shift all kinds of things. We can shift attitudes. We can shift rooms. We can create ourselves. We can feel sad. We can feel happy. We are an amazing freaking creature. And for anybody to say that we have anything wrong with us, it's so damning. It's so damning. And that's what we've been hearing since day one of our birth. So,
and I want to interject here. So in this conversation right now, what you're saying, not looking at ourselves as wrong, and I'm going to throw this out there, guys, and it may sit with you, and it may not, but looking at the elite, let's say, or the New World Order, or the folks kind of driving all these agendas, looking at them like they're wrong is not serving us. I get
Correct.
it, I get that, and you know what? I mean, part of me is like, no, they're effing wrong, man, And the other part of me, the wiser, older, deeper part of me says, no, it's all one, right? In a way, they're a reflection of my own mind. So making them wrong is not going to make the situation right.
And that's a waste of time. Making somebody else wrong is a waste of time. That's being judgmental. And there's no reason to judge them. Whatever game they're playing, they're doing it well. Good for them. I'm playing
my game.
They are
doing it well. And the reason they're so successful goes back to an earlier part of our conversation. And what you brought to the table, Dave, is that we give our permission away constantly. We've been programmed to.
Right.
We can point to them for that. But nonetheless, now that we know that, we just got to stop giving our permission away like that. We have to, not have to, but it will serve us to come into our power. That is personal power. I don't mean power over. I mean personal power and power with others. I personally see that as the only way we're going to be anyway effective in shifting the planet, shifting our thinking, and moving into a world we want to see and in our lives that we want to see.
There you go. There you go. My goodness, Siobhan, who taught you all these wonderful things?
Well, I got a lot of teachers along the way, but you're one.
You sure have, honey. I love listening to you speak. I love your enthusiasm, and I love who you are as a person. I see you being very powerful within your own self, and that's nice because it's not about the outside world. And when we tell your guests that this is simple but not easy, it's not easy. It's not easy because the way that humanity thinks on the whole is that something is bigger than them. And as soon as you can get that there is nothing bigger than you, then you can start to grab hold of your life. But first you have to go down the road of finding out, well, who have I been? And who you have been, in my understanding of humanity, who you have been is somebody under the rule, big word there, you're under the rule of some invisible almighty God. And even the word God just sounds so big and heavy and powerful. And if people didn't have the fear, but instead welcomed the conversation of what is their belief system, the core of that conversation, if you have it with people like me, and there are others, but I can only speak for myself, if you have that conversation with me, I will assist you in finding out your core belief. And your core belief will most probably end up with something along the ideas of being punished at one point or another for not asserting your life and not being happy, a heaven and a hell, a being damned, a non-perfect thing, and a non-perfect being. And in all of those beliefs, they all go back to whatever your belief in the Creator is. If you can understand your belief in the Creator, whatever that means to you, whether you came from the void of nothingness or whether or not you came from the Almighty God person, when you know what your roots are, when you know what your own belief system is, fear tends to go away because you know your own root system. If I should die at this moment, I know what my beliefs are. I don't have a fear of death. I don't have a fear of death, so there's a whole big fear taken away. I have a desire to live comfortably. I don't feel like being tortured and all that kind of thing, but I don't have a fear of death. I'm not a very fearful person, and that's because I know who I am. With a great deal of conversation, I know who I am in the conversation that people are not supposed to have. You're not supposed to talk about politics, religion, et cetera, et cetera. I talk about that stuff all the time. It's the only way you get to find out who you are. And these are the things that people don't talk about are the things that rule their lives. That's what rules your life. You're afraid of dying. Well, what if you think death is a beautiful thing? Then you lose that fear and you get to be more powerful. But if you think that death is some kind of horrible thing, then the fear only gets bigger. And if you are atheist and are under the impression that this life is it, well, that's so empowering, but you need to know that that's what you believe. Because if this life is it, you start living a lot better life because this is it. There's nowhere else to go. This is it. So it so much has to do with your core belief, and so many people have no idea what their core belief is. And
well,
if you have no idea,
and I'll interject here. Probably one of the reasons most of us walking around don't know what our core beliefs are is because a lot of our core beliefs are formulated when we're a young child. I think in one of Bruce Lipton's books, Spontaneous Evolution maybe, or another one, he talks about how our subconscious programming runs till about 6 or 7 years old. And at 6 or 7 years old, we're already locked in with some paradigms and concepts in our subconscious. And so, folks, sometimes we got to dig deep, right? It's like we don't know what our core beliefs are because they formulated so long ago. And we don't even realize that those core beliefs from childhood are leaking over into probably every aspect of our life. So if we have
every aspect.
Yeah, if we have a fear of being judged, well, you can bet your ass a lot of us are probably judging other people and judging ourselves. Forget about it. Judging ourselves, condemning ourselves regularly.
Yeah. You know, when you listen to people who know what they believe, they tend to have a smile on their face all the time, or at least they know what direction they want to go in because of whatever their belief system is. When I speak to people, which is regularly, who don't know what they believe, they are, here, let me give you an example. They are swimming in kind of not clear. They have no guidelines about their life. They have no, they're not firm on anything. I'm going to give you an example which I think is so funny. So many people call me because I'm listed as Reverend Laura Tria, and they need to get married or they need whatever, and they call Reverend, and it says interfaith, so that means that it's not of their religion of origin, so it sounds safe to them. And they usually, one of the first ways that I meet people is because they want to get married. And so they call me up and hello, and I'm getting married, and can you help me? And I say, well, congratulations, you're getting married. This is wonderful. And we make our relationship. And it starts off on a high note, and as soon as we start to get that warm and fuzzy feeling, they say, so I got to let you know I'm not religious. Because they're frightened of that, whatever that is. And I say, well, that's fine. So here are these people who are not religious, but they call the Reverend. They didn't call the judge. They call the Reverend. So I get into a relationship with them, and sooner or later down the road, when they're telling me they have no belief system, Catholicism doesn't work for me anymore, I can't be a Jew like my mother and father, I am that, but I don't want to practice it. They know they don't want to be connected. They've done no study. They don't want to be connected, and so they have nothing. And then they say to me, Reverend Tria, your phone number starts off with 666.
Yeah, you told me that before.
It is so funny. They're freaked out by the 3 numbers that the town gave me for my telephone. These are people that have no belief system. So I'm laughing because I find it funny because they're telling me, they're articulating to me, well, I don't believe in this, I don't believe in that, da-da-da. And yet their gut has superstitions and sees a number, and it freaks them out. So people have to know themselves. To be rid of fear or to be powerful in this world, to play the human being, you need to know yourself. And you've heard it 1,000 times by so many. To thine own self be true, know thyself. You need to know who you are. That doesn't mean you need to know your name. That means you need to go inside there and find out, who am I? Wake up. And for that, to get to that place, that's the part that's not easy. It's simple but not easy. You need to have conversation. Conversation with somebody you respect. Conversation with somebody who doesn't take your conversation personally, but somebody who can exercise you to find out who are you. And when you find out who you are and where your power resides, the world is your oyster, no matter what's happening around you.
I hear you on that. I hear that. Yeah. Let me pause for a second, just in case people are tuning in late. You are listening to the Humanity Transcending Show with Siobhan of the Cerisi family. My guest today is Reverend Laura Tria, and we are having beautiful, wonderful conversation about, yes, all the scary things, horrible things that are going on, but we're having an uplifting conversation because we're talking about how we really are the authority in our lives, and when we get that, we can really have a lot of movement in our life. The world sort of around us begins to shift. I mean, I've noticed everything shift. My personal relationships with family and friends. I'm just, because I've been diligent about my own transformation, it's really happened, guys. I've seen it for myself. I have co-created my reality with focused intention, and I must tell you that I see it come to fruition regularly. Sometimes not exactly how I thought it was going to look. Sometimes not as soon as I thought, but every time it's like the perfect time. The universe or God or the Creator really does deliver right on time, you know? So it's an amazing thing. So I encourage you to get in touch with your deeper self, your spirituality. And I do know that one of the ways to get out of something, let's say, is to go in. That's where you say, Laura, that it's simple, but it's not easy. The simple part is like it is very simple. You know, when you apply certain tools or you go within and you really inquire, especially when you have somebody to help you do that, it's simple. You see it. We see what we've been running from or hiding from or haven't seen before. But we got to go within to do that. So, again, welcome everybody to Humanity Transcending. You can visit me at www.humanitytranscending.com and my guest, Laura Tria, at www.lauratria.com. You are listening to United We Win Marathons, and it's all about this weekend. Don't buy, don't comply, ask why. And that could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but I take it to mean, don't buy into the propaganda, don't buy into the lies. Start asking questions. Ultimately, at this point in the game, we have a good idea of what's going on. There's so much more that we don't know, but we can begin to keep asking questions. That's the only way we're going to discover anything is if we keep the questions going. And don't comply, meaning peacefully. Don't get into fights to not comply, but just peacefully non-comply. I'll tell you a story. Because I've been asserting my sovereignty, I've been in jail twice already, and of course I have fears about all that, and flashbacks about all that, and so that's one of the things I'm working on as far as my fears, because I have made my choice to live as a free woman and not be attached to this corporate government and not subject myself any longer to their statutes and codes and regulations. But along with all that, as powerful as I am in that, there's a part of me that is just scared silly. And so I was on the phone with my sisters this morning, and when I say that I mean, my matriarchy. I was on the phone with Laura and a few of our other matriarch teammates, if you will. We have a wonderful support system. I encourage folks to create a support system for themselves. It's very helpful. But this is one of the things I'm going to be going inward about this week. I'm going to be facing my fears. I'm going to be looking squarely at what it is that keeps me afraid of being behind bars, afraid of being stuck with needles, afraid of being handcuffed and hauled off. It was a real experience for me. And so to go forward in my truth and in my freedom, I absolutely have to confront my fears. So I'm going to be going inward, and I'll share with you guys next month about how that went. But this is what I mean. The things that I bring to you, I do myself. I don't ever tell you or encourage you to try something that I'm not willing to do myself. And so you're not alone. You can contact Laura Tria. You can contact me. I put that out to listeners a lot. Like, if you don't have somebody to talk to about this, if these things are upsetting to you, that you see in the world, the Agenda 21 and Codex and, these laws being passed now by Obama that they're not really laws. Again, they're just codes and statutes. But they're insane, just really cracking down on people's freedom left and right. So please contact us if you need an ear, if you wanna divulge whatever's coming up for you, anger, fear, sadness. We know it all. I've known it all. I wrote a book about it.
And Siobhan, I'm going to interrupt you right there because what you're saying is so key. Siobhan is offering you a place to unload your thoughts and your fears. That is so needed. It's needed, and it will work against you if in the end you don't take that and also give as much attention to your own moving forward. To bitch, to be sad, to express your sadness and your fears, absolutely needed. Absolutely needed. You need to go within. You need to do more and be bigger than it.
Yeah, I find I can't get to the other side unless unless I release that and get it out of me. It stays there and it takes up room, and I can't even fit what I want in there with levels of whatever it is that's holding me back.
Yeah.
So
and
absolutely.
when she says that. And when Siobhan says can't fit, let that be, I don't know what your visual is for that, but it's real. You have this power plate that resides within you. I'm speaking to the audience. You have this power plate, you have this energy plate that resides within you. Your energy can be taken up in various ways. If you stay in the fear, if you discuss the fear, and then discuss the fear, and then discuss the fear, and then discuss the fear, you getting it? If all you're doing is discussing the fear, then all you're doing is using your power plate in one direction. So now you're walking around lopsided. You're unbalanced. Mm-hmm. You need to discuss the hope. You need to discuss the powerful you. You need to discuss what you do have control over. You need to make that just as much alive if your desire is to be a balanced person. If your desire is to be powerfully moving your life deliberately in the direction that you want it to move.
And that's the part where we come back to. That's the part that requires maintenance, right? We all know how to feel bad for ourselves. Pretty good. I'm pretty sure we all picked up the victim role somewhere along the way and have played that out, But at this stage in the game, it doesn't serve us to feel bad about ourselves. So, we want to expose our fears but move through them, like have an intention to have a breakthrough, like not to wallow in our fears, but express them so they're out in front of us so we can stare them in the face, put our arms around it, hug it, and stop giving it the power that we've been giving it. And then, and begin to change our conversation, like Laura is saying, right? Like you're saying, now we got to tell a different story to ourselves.
Exactly. And if without getting too personal, I have had the honor of witnessing your transformation over the last 2 years. And you can
get personal because I pretty much share a lot on here. It doesn't matter.
You just tell it all.
Yeah, I just tell it all. That's the way I grow and expand it. I move quicker when I do that.
Oh. Cool.
Yeah.
So Siobhan went from being an angry person, really the type of person that, here, let me put you in a room with that person because they can get into the angry jabs back and forth, and Siobhan had the quick answers, and the language was like profundity, and, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then one day she said, I want peace. I said, okay, you ready? She said, I want peace. And now listening to her, after listening to months, because it hasn't been a year or even a year and a half, because she came through so quickly. But in the very beginning, she was all tears. She was all tears of letting stuff go that was toxic and residing within her. Her fears, her belief system had her oppressed, had her fighting, had her kicking for all of the things that were not serving her or serving the idea of being pleased.
And let me just say this, because maybe others can relate. Part of my belief system was blaming others. Part of my belief system was blaming others. I would give my power away, or give something of myself that I really didn't want to, I wasn't sure about, and then I would blame the other. And so this was like I think a core belief.
Right.
And so maybe some of y'all relate to that because we've been trained to blame and judge others. And really good book I'd recommend really quick, Nonviolent Communication. Stellar. Got to read it. It'll help you unravel that blaming pattern. But anyway, go ahead, Laura. I just wanted to share that piece.
And so I'm listening to you on the phone, which I'm enjoying so much, and I'm hearing how powerful you are, just as powerful as the day I met you, except that your power is guided peacefully and lovingly and still has that fabulous passion that you've always had. So where your listeners are hearing you be so pro-peace and let's do and life can be good and like that, I want them to know that they're seeing, I wish that they could have a glimpse of who you were so that they can see how fabulous of who you are now, because in that, if they can see that, they can know how to take themselves from wherever they're stuck to doing you, to being like you, and that is just amazing. I'd also like to offer your listeners a little game I'd like you to play with yourself. This is for everybody listening. Here's the game. You might think that you're not a judgmental person. You might also have the thought that you are responsible for your life. Most people who tell me they're responsible for their life, they have no clue what that means, and they take no responsibility for their life unless it's good. So I'm going to assert that a good percentage of the people listening today are not responsible for their lives. And here will be the proof. Throughout your day, how many times, catch yourself, how many times do you use the word you and mean it? So you came home late because there was traffic and they weren't moving and they were clogging the roads. Or the house is messy because you or he made this or she did that and my house is a mess. Or I'm fat because they put in front of me and they. So how many times in your daily life, and how many times in an hour, do you use the word you or they? And if you're using those two words, you're not taking responsibility for your life. If you're saying I took too much time to get on the road, and when I got on the road, so was the rest of the rush hour. And I'm late.
Or just simply I was in traffic. I was on the road.
Or I was in traffic, yeah.
I was in traffic.
Yeah. Fine. Just be curious with yourself. If you're living with a partner, how many times do you use the word you? If you're using the word you live in attack world or defense world or in a world where you do not have responsibility for your life.
This is why I just want to say a piece about that piece of it, because when Laura, which and she still is in a lot of ways, but when Laura was my spiritual life coach for a while, she gave me this exercise with regards to you. And at the time, I was fighting with my boyfriend, on and off. We would have these cycles of fighting, and I wanted peace, and I was working on peace. And so she gave me this exercise when I'm fighting with him, say I. Speak about what I want to say, but say it from the standpoint of I and not you. And this was quite an interesting exercise. It was so foreign to myself and my boyfriend at the time, how to be responsible for the stuff that was pissing us off about each other, or so we thought, right? So, I mean, we did the exercise. My boyfriend bowed out. Like after 5 minutes. He goes, tell Laura I don't want to do this anymore, because we were both seeing her at the time. But eventually, I stuck to my guns, and I did do it. And I did it, and I did it, and I did it, until I really saw where my role in all of it and how my role in it impacted the outcome. So I just want to share that little anecdote because it's pretty funny. But I'm telling you, when you guys try that, you're going to see how little we take responsibility for our situations and our lives.
It's so fun. I have so many people come back and tell me, I can't speak anymore. They've chosen not to speak because the word you is in every other sentence. So they don't speak until they can figure it out. And again, it is simple. It's not easy. Siobhan knows this work really well. I know this work really well. There's people out there that can assist you in it. It is, if you make it a game and you just try and shift things about yourself, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. If you shift the way you're behaving, there are many times yourself will catch up with the way you're behaving. And so if you shift your habits, the world will shift for you, and you'll get there. You can get to happiness, regardless of what's around you.
That's right. We use a little three-word tool, right? Be, do, have. And usually we try to have what we want first that we think will get us to be what we want and do what we want, and that's all backwards. What I find really works well, and not for everybody maybe, but you can try it, that little line, be, do, have. We be what it is we want. So when I wanted to be peace, I had to be it. So when I felt of argument coming on with my boyfriend, man, and I could go at it. But I knew I had chosen peace, and I said, hell no. Hell no. I'm going to get off the phone and call him later instead of, curse him out and then hang up. So it took some willpower, but things really do shift. We have amazing power within us to shift anything we want about ourselves. It seems magical, but it's really just inherent how we've been created and designed.
We are that powerful. And when I say to people that finding your belief system, finding out what your real spiritual core belief system, how that helps, I give anybody this challenge. So often people say to me in this New Age world, well, I don't believe in there's a big white God in the sky. I believe God is within us. And it sounds so holy. They say, I believe God is within us. And I believe that. That's my belief system. And so when they assert that to me, then I say to them, then I'm speaking to God. And they can't do that. Oh my God, don't call me that. And I mean it literally. I mean it literally. You are God. You said God is within. I have that much respect for you. I have that much. I'm humble in front of you as another being. You have God in you. It's not so far.
That's where it can get a little uncomfortable for some people.
It gets way uncomfortable. Blasphemy comes through their mind, and how dare me even think of myself being that powerful and that big. Well, then if you're not, then living in fear is kind of where you belong because you don't see yourself as powerful. So you are a perfect pawn for those that know they have power. I'm not a perfect pawn for those that know they have power because I know I have power. Many, many years ago when I was being trained to be a hypnotist, it was we had a lot of fun. We trained people how to make believe they were in water and they felt like they were wet and really they were just sitting in a classroom. We had a lot of fun. But when it came time for us to hypnotize one another, me and a handful of others were considered unhypnotizable or really difficult. And we were difficult because we asked why. Because we didn't take direction. I don't take direction real well. I need to have it explained to me. So I have my own power. I used to fight with my husband, as many of you know this story. When you get in the car, the person in the passenger seat knows exactly how you should be driving. And so many fights come because they say, but you should have went here or go there or turn here. I can't just take somebody's direction. I need to think about it, chew on it, see if it works for me. So that makes me powerful because I pause enough to know that I have power. Just because you asked me to do something doesn't mean anything. It just means noise was coming out of your mouth. I'll think about it. So when you take the time to think, why am I doing X, Y, Z? What's motivating me at this moment? You start to regain some of your power. We are very powerful beings. And in my understanding, we are the creative source. And that fits for every belief system. We are the creative source. I'm not better than you, and you're certainly not better than me. I'm not more powerful than you, and you are certainly not more powerful than me. And when you get that, when you get it from the core of your belly, life is good, and you command it.
And that's, I believe, the sort of way of being or attitude that we need to take on to be effective, positively effective with the situations at hand. Really, you know, the only way we're going to be powerful is if we believe ourselves to be powerful. That's what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to. And again, as an interfaith minister, as that whole holy conversation goes, the way to find your power is one of the ways to find your power. I have not found a better way to find your power than to dare to go to the God conversation. So many people are afraid of that conversation. So many people take that almighty God thing, whether they practice it or not, and they let it be as powerful as it sounds over them, rather than to take from that and use that juice within their own power. If you have the courage to go ahead and have that conversation and to realize that you're not going to be damned just because you have a mind and questions, when you realize you're not going to be damned, when you take a chance and say, you know, I really don't know what that is, but I'm scared of it. Well, that's moving yourself forward. I really don't have the words. That's moving yourself forward. Whatever conversation you can have, you'll hear yourself. That's all that needs to happen. You just need to hear yourself so you can get clear. And for those of you who have kids, when the kid says, "So, mommy, daddy, who's God or what's God?" You know, don't pawn it off to some institution to tell them, because then they're going to be growing up in the same fear that everybody else is in. I don't know, honey. Let's talk about it. What do you think it is? You'll probably get great answers.
Well, this is true, too. I mean, just from childhood, we start telling our children lies. Lies.
Yeah.
You know, Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy. I mean, it's all, I know it's all in good fun, but ultimately it's lies, right?
Yeah.
So, from very young, and then they don't question, right? My friend Michelle, poor thing, she told me when she found out that there wasn't a Santa Claus, she was devastated, and she was pissed at her mom for lying at her as a child. Right. So this stuff goes deep. We got to really start questioning what is it that we're doing? Why are we just doing it as robots, or no? Let me investigate this. Does it feel right to me?
People want me to change your phone number. Educated people who have no religious orientation want me to change my phone number. It scares them. I think that's
if anybody missed that part of the story before, the beginning of the phone number is 666. So go ahead. What you were saying?
Well, and so people point this out to me regularly. First of all, I had no say over it. You know, it's what the number that the town gave me. But people who consider themselves to be non-religious say, you know, Rev, 666. I don't know. and I have nothing to say. I laugh. And the truth is, if they're afraid of my phone number, then those are not the people I want to deal with. But if they're afraid of my phone number and they call me and say, you know what, your phone number freaks me out, I want to deal with you because you had the courage to do that.
Right.
And that means to me that you're a person of power. We just have to shift where it's coming from.
Right on. Well, it looks like our hour is coming to a close. I am so pleased with this conversation today. I'm happy that I can have it in such a forum as United We Win. United We Win. I mean, just the title alone is like, again, not an us against them, but just as a humanity, right? Because we're like on a road to self-destruction. So we can pull together in unity that we win out over our own self-destruction. I think we'll be very successful. And I think the more we come into our power, the more successful we'll be. And so thank you, Reverend Laura Tria.
May I say thank you to your guests and to Dave?
Please do, yeah.
I say thank you because you bothered to take the time to listen. I say thank you because you might bother to get into a conversation that takes you deeper into yourself. And in this breath, for this moment that I've lived, for this past hour that I've lived. This was not wasted time. Thank you for sharing yourselves with me. And Dave, thank you for this privilege and for doing what you do in your retired time. And thank you, Siobhan.
Well, thank you both. And my good friend Reverend, I've just got started with my life, and I'm only 71.
There you go. There you go.
I don't have time to get old.
I'm there with you. And I, sir, and I am 54 years old and have just decided to be 20 years younger.
Youngsters, I don't know. I'm 15, actually.
Oh, gosh. Well, this has been very terrific, and I thank you both for allowing me.
And thank you both. And ladies, I'm going to go out with a little bit of classical music. Will I fire up the next group? Because I got the first, what is it? I got the first 4 hours already in archives.
All right.
All right. You are